We need to write Chapter 1 of Episode 18. The series is Avengers discover Colossal Derelict alien station at the Void's Edge, and it remembers them ASF. The previous context, Ex-Iran Empire collapsed, humans victorious. Kale and Mara on Void Revenant, heading to Proxima Centauri b to recover. Humanity shifts to dominance. The chapter title is given as Chapter 1 of 12. We need to follow strict rules, macro to micro scale, no cliches, crisp dialogue, pacing tension, 801,000 words. Output only story text. The chapter should start episode 18. The title suggests a derelict alien station at the Void's Edge, but the previous context says they are en route to Proxima. So chapter 1 should introduce the discovery of the station, possibly at the edge of the system or beyond. Keep it gripping. Use military sci-fi tone, focus on Kale and Mara, show the shift from survival to dominance. The station remembers them, implies ancient connection or AI. Let's write. The Void Revenant slid through the black, its hull still scarred from the final Zyran barrage. Kale stood at the command deck's observation window, arms crossed, watching the stars blur into streaks as the fleet pushed toward Proxima Centauri b. The surrender had been broadcast 3 days ago, but the quiet on the channels felt heavier than the gunfire. Fleet status report, he said without turning. Mara's voice came from the tactical station, crisp and clipped. All ships in formation, weapon capacitors at 40%. Sensors are sweeping full spectrum, no active threats within 2 light seconds. We're running silent on primary comms, passive only. Kale nodded. Good, keep it that way. I don't trust to surrender that clean. The Zyrans were bleeding out, Mara replied. Their central command was a crater. You saw the intel. I saw what they wanted us to see. He turned, facing her. We broke their empire, but the Void is full of other predators. They watched us fight. They measured us. Now they know we can bleed. Mara's hand rested on the sensor console. Then we make sure the next one doesn't get the chance to measure. We're not scavengers anymore, Kale. We're the ones who decide what crosses the line. A low chime interrupted. Her eyes flicked to the display. Unidentified signal, bearing 279 Mark 14, distance extreme. Beyond the heliopause, it's not a ship. Kale stepped closer. Define not a ship. It's massive, gravitational anomaly. Partial mass reading suggests something the size of a small moon. But it's not emitting any propulsion signature. No heat wash, no comms handshake. It's cold. Derelict, maybe, but the signal is weird. It's a repeating pattern, not natural, not random. It's almost like a query. Kale's jaw tightened. A query for what? Mara pulled up the data. The waveform scrolled across her screen. It's old. The frequency decay matches a tech base we don't recognize. Not Zyran, not any of the minor species we've encountered. This is pre-human. The command deck went silent. The other officers paused, glancing at each other. Set course, Kale said. Speed limit 50%. Keep the fleet spread in tactical formation. All weapons cold but ready to hot cycle in under 10 seconds. We're supposed to be heading for Proxima, Mara said. Resupply, repairs, rest. The Void doesn't rest, and that thing is at the edge. If it's been there since before we were crawling out of the mud, I want to know what it remembers. The Void Revenant adjusted its vector. The fleet followed, a silent column of warships sliding toward the unknown. As they closed the distance, the object resolved on the forward cameras. It was a station, colossal, jagged, built from materials that absorbed light rather than reflected it. Spires extended in angular patterns, some broken, others intact. The surface was pitted with micrometeorite impacts, but the structure showed no signs of decay. It was as if time had simply stopped inside its hull. The signal grew stronger, a sequence of pulses, then a pause. A pattern that repeated every 12 seconds. It's acknowledging us, Mara said, her voice low. The query changed. It's now matching our comm frequency. It's trying to talk. Kale stared at the alien construct. Open a channel, broadband, no encryption. Send the standard first contact greeting, the old one from the early Sol expeditions. You want to use the children's primer. We don't know what it is, Mara, but it's been waiting. And if it remembers anything, I want it to remember we came in peace first. The transmission went out, the silence stretched, then the station answered. It wasn't a voice. It was a shift in the gravitational field, a subtle tug that pulled at the ship. The deck vibrated, the lights flickered. On the main screen, data streamed in. Mara's fingers flew across the console. It's not a station, it's an archive, a memory bank. The structure is organic, it's grown, not built, and it's reading our ship's core systems. It's learning our language real time. Kale felt the hairs on his neck rise. Can we stop it? No, it's already inside. It's not hostile, it's curious. It's matching our neural patterns. It knows who we are. The screen cleared. A single line of text appeared, written in perfect English. You are the ones who broke the chain. The Void remembers your name. Welcome home, Scavengers. Chapter 2, the archive breathes. The words on the screen hung in the air like a verdict. Mara's throat tightened, but her hands never stopped moving across the console. She was trained for this, trained to keep calm even when the unknown pressed against the hull like a storm. Kale leaned forward, eyes locked on the alien construct. It knows us, not just humans, it called us scavengers. That's not a coincidence, Mara replied. It's pulling from our history, it's referencing the wars, the chain. The collapse of the empires. The deck shuddered again, a low vibration that resonated through the ship's frame. The crew exchanged glances, silent but tense. Kale toggled the comm. Station archive, whatever you are, identify yourself. The response was immediate. The gravitational field shifted and the ship's sensors translated the pulses into text. We are the memory of the fallen. We are the record of the arrogant who believed the void could be tamed. You broke them. You endured. Mara's jaw clenched. It's talking about the alien empires, the ones that thought they owned the edge. Kale's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the weight of the moment. And it remembers us as the ones who shattered them. The archive pulsed again. The lights dimmed, then surged. A new stream of data poured in: schematics, star maps, fragments of battles fought centuries ago. Mara's console lit up with coordinates. Kale, these are war records, engagements between the Sarathi Dominion and the Valen Ascendancy. Entire fleets wiped out, and look, human signatures embedded in the logs, our ships, our tactics. Kale's lips pressed into a thin line. It's cataloging us as predators, not explorers, predators. The archive's next message appeared sharp and deliberate. You came with calm hands and steel hearts. You harvested the wreckage. You learned. You adapted. The void does not forget. The crew fell silent. Mara's fingers hovered above the console, uncertain whether to continue parsing the flood of data. Kale broke the silence. Mara locked down the core. If it's inside our systems, I want containment protocols active. No bleed into navigation. Already on it, she said, her voice clipped. But Kale, it's not attacking, it's testing us. Kale turned to the viewport. The colossal station loomed, its surface shifting like muscle beneath skin. It wasn't metal, it was alive, a lattice of organic matter fused with machinery. The sheer scale dwarfed their ship, a reminder of how small humanity remained in the grand theater of the void. Testing us for what? Kale muttered. The archive answered, for remembrance, for judgment. The scavengers must decide, are you builders or breakers? Mara's breath caught. It's giving us a choice, Kale shook his head. No, it's forcing us to confront what we are. The empires fell because they underestimated us. We took their wreckage, turned it into weapons, ships, colonies. We survived by tearing apart their arrogance, and now this thing wants to know if we'll do the same to it. The crew's comms crackled. Lieutenant Rin's voice came through, sharp and urgent. Captain, external scans show movement. The station's outer layers are shifting, forming apertures. Something's opening. Kale's eyes narrowed. Weapons. Negative, not weapons. Docking ports. It's inviting us in. The archive pulsed again, the message clear. Enter, witness, carry the memory forward. Mara turned to Kale. If we go inside, we'll be walking into its core. We'll be exposed. But if we do, Kale finished her thought. We risk losing whatever knowledge it's offering, and knowledge is survival. He stood, voice firm. Prep the boarding team, full combat gear, no assumptions. We treat this like hostile territory until proven otherwise. The crew moved with precision. Weapons checked, armor sealed, comms synced. The calm efficiency of soldiers who had seen too many wars. As the boarding craft detached, Kale's voice carried over the channel. Remember, this isn't about curiosity. This is about leverage. If this archive holds records of the empires, it holds their weaknesses. And if it remembers us, it knows how we fight. Stay sharp. The craft slid into the yawning aperture. Darkness swallowed them, then light bloomed, soft, bioluminescent veins running along the walls. The interior was vast, cathedral-like, with structures that pulsed as if breathing. Mara's scanner pinged. The walls are alive. They're reading us, biosigns, neural patterns, everything. It's mapping us in real time. Kale raised his rifle, eyes scanning the chamber. Then let's give it something worth remembering. The archive spoke again, but this time not through text. The chamber itself resonated, the vibrations forming words in their minds. You carry the silence of the void. You carry the hunger of survival. Show us if you carry the burden of creation. Mara's voice was barely a whisper. It wants proof, proof we can build, not just destroy. Kale's grip tightened on his weapon. Then we show it, but on our terms. The chamber shifted. Panels unfolded, revealing holographic projections of battles long past. Human ships darting between alien cruisers, scavenger fleets dismantling empires piece by piece. The archive replayed humanity's rise not as heroes but as opportunists. Kale stared at the images. It's holding a mirror to us, and it's asking if we like what we see. The silence stretched, heavy with judgment. Then Kale lowered his rifle. His voice was calm, deliberate. We survived because we had no choice, but survival isn't the same as conquest. If you want proof we can build, then give us the tools, give us the knowledge, and watch what we make of it. The chamber pulsed. The bioluminescent veins flared brighter. The archive's final message for the moment echoed through their minds. Then the void will watch, and it will remember. The boarding team stood in the living archive, surrounded by the weight of history and the gaze of something far older than humanity. The choice was theirs, but the judgment would not be forgotten. And outside, the colossal station shifted again, its vast form awakening, as if preparing for the next move in a game humanity had only just realized it was playing. Chapter 3, The Station's Memory. The colossal station groaned as if tectonic plates shifted within its bones. The boarding team braced themselves against the trembling deck. Kale's eyes swept across the chamber, every instinct sharpened. He had fought in the ruins of empires, scavenged fleets stripped bare, but this was different. This was not a battlefield, it was a tribunal. Mara steadied her breathing, her voice clipped. It's not just showing us history, it's testing whether we understand it. Kale's reply was cold steel. Understanding doesn't win wars, but it might keep us alive in here. The holograms dissolved into a new projection, alien empires locked in arrogance, their fleets vast and gleaming, their commanders issuing orders with disdain. Then came the humans, smaller ships, patched hulls, improvised weapons. They moved with precision, not grandeur. Every strike was calculated, every retreat deliberate. The archive emphasized the contrast, empires obsessed with dominance, humans obsessed with survival. Lieutenant Rin muttered, "They thought us scavengers." They weren't wrong, but scavengers don't just feed, they adapt. The chamber pulsed again. Voice not spoken but felt, pressed into their minds. Adaptation is creation. Creation is burdened. You carry it. Kale's jaw tightened. We carry it, but we decide how. The floor split open, revealing a lattice of bioluminescent conduits. Energy surged upward, forming a sphere of shifting symbols. Mara recognized fragments of alien engineering schematics, blueprints for weapons, habitats, star drives, knowledge older than humanity's first sparks of fire. Blueprints, Mara whispered. It's offering us the tools. Kale raised a hand, silencing her awe. Tools are nothing without discipline. Empires fell because they believed power was enough. We don't make that mistake. The sphere expanded, projecting a simulation. Human hands assembling structures from alien components, orbital foundries, defensive grids, colonies carved into asteroids. The archive was not just showing possibility, it was demanding proof. Kale turned to his team. We build something right here, right now. Show it we're more than scavengers. Rin frowned. With what? We've got rifles, rations, and a portable reactor. That's not a construction fleet. Kale's voice was calm, deliberate. We improvise, that's what we do. Mara, decode those schematics. Rin, strip the reactor for modular output. The rest of you start mapping the chamber's interfaces. We'll give it a prototype. The team moved with military precision. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Mara's fingers danced across her console, translating alien glyphs into human-readable code. Rin pried open the reactor casing, rerouting power lines with brutal efficiency. Sparks flew, but his hands never faltered. Minutes stretched into hours. The chamber watched, silent but alive. Every pulse of its veins seemed to measure their progress. Sweat streaked across foreheads, but no one broke. Finally, a structure began to take shape, a skeletal frame of alloy fused with alien conduits powered by human ingenuity. It was not grand, not beautiful, but it was functional. A prototype energy relay capable of stabilizing power across fractured systems. Mara stepped back, breathless. It's crude, but it works. Kale nodded. Crude is survival. Survival is proof. The relay hummed, light coursing through its veins. The chamber responded, its bioluminescence flaring brighter. The archive's voice pressed into their minds again. Proof accepted. Burden acknowledged. The void remembers. The walls shifted, revealing new corridors branching outward. The station was opening itself, granting access deeper into its core. Rin exhaled sharply. It's letting us in. Kale's gaze hardened. No, it's inviting us further into the test. Every step deeper, the stakes rise. This isn't a gift, it's a gauntlet. Mara's eyes flicked to the glowing relay. Then we keep building, keep proving, because if we stop, it decides we're just scavengers again. Kale's voice carried the weight of command, and scavengers don't survive judgment. Move out. The team advanced into the newly revealed corridors. The air grew heavier, charged with static. Panels along the walls displayed more archives, alien empires collapsing under their own arrogance, human fleets dismantling them piece by piece. But now the projections shifted. They showed futures, not pasts. Futures where humanity built, where colonies thrived, where stations like this one became hubs of creation instead of ruins. Kale studied the images, his expression unreadable. It's not just testing us, it's predicting us, and it wants to know if we'll prove it right. The silence of the void pressed in, but the team moved forward, weapons ready, minds sharper than blades. The colossal station was awake, and it remembered them. And somewhere deep within its core, something waited, something that had judged empires before, and was now turning its gaze upon humanity. The gauntlet had only begun. Chapter 4, The Station's Memory. The corridor widened into a chamber vast enough to swallow a fleet carrier. The walls pulsed faintly, veins of light threading through alien alloys. Every flicker carried intent, as if the station itself was breathing. Kale raised a hand, halting the squad. His voice was low, clipped, eyes open. This isn't architecture, it's awareness. Rin adjusted his rifle, scanning the arcs of light. Feels like it's watching us. It is, Mara replied, her tone steady, and it remembers. Every empire that walked these halls left scars. It's showing us those scars now. Panels ignited across the chamber, projecting scenes of alien fleets, colossal armadas bristling with arrogance. They clashed in void wars, annihilating worlds until human flotillas appeared in the projections, smaller, leaner, but precise. Calm commanders directing strikes that dismantled empires piece by piece. Kale's jaw tightened. It's reminding us of the pattern. Arrogance breeds collapse, precision breeds survival. The chamber shifted again. A central dais rose, etched with glyphs that rearranged themselves into symbols recognizable as tactical maps. The station was not just showing history, it was issuing a challenge. Command interface, Mara muttered. It wants us to prove we can wield it. Kale stepped forward, boots echoing against the alloy floor. He placed his hand on the dais. Instantly the chamber darkened, then flared with projections of possible futures. Human colonies thriving, alien remnants scattered, but interlaced among them were darker visions, humanity fractured, stations burning, fleets consumed by the same arrogance that doomed others. Kale's voice cut through the silence. It's not asking if we can fight, it's asking if we can endure without becoming what we destroy. Rin's grip tightened on his weapon. That's philosophy, we're soldiers. No, Kale said sharply, we're both. Soldiers who forget the philosophy become the empires we dismantle. The dais pulsed, and suddenly the chamber filled with holographic adversaries, alien warforms, towering constructs, simulations of battles fought long ago. The station was testing them in real time. Contact drills, Mara snapped. Weapons free, Kale nodded once. Weapons free, but remember it's watching how we fight, not just if we win. The squad moved with lethal precision. Rin's rifle barked, cutting down a warform projection. Mara's drone swarmed, intercepting flanking constructs. Kale advanced methodically, every strike calculated, every movement deliberate. They fought not with desperation, but with control, calm, terrifyingly calm. The projections adapted, escalating. Alien empires merged into hybrid monstrosities, their arrogance distilled into weapons. Yet the humans countered with discipline, coordination, and restraint. They did not waste fire, they did not panic. Minutes stretched into an eternity, then silence. The projections dissolved, leaving only the pulsing dais. Kale lowered his weapon. It's measuring us against the memory of collapse. And we passed for now. The chamber shifted again, corridors unfurling deeper into the station's core. The air grew heavier, charged with static that prickled against skin. Mara's eyes narrowed. It's leading us to the heart, whatever judges us waits there. Kale turned to his squad, voice steady, commanding. We move deeper, stay sharp. This isn't just survival, it's legacy, humanity's legacy, and this station will decide if we're worthy of it. They advanced, weapons ready, minds sharpened by the gauntlet. The Colossal Derelict was no longer silent. It remembered every empire it had seen, every arrogance it had crushed, and now it was turning its gaze upon humanity. The void pressed in, vast and merciless, but the humans pressed back, calm and unyielding. The gauntlet had only begun, and the station was far from finished with them. Somewhere ahead in the core, judgment waited. And it would not be merciful. The corridor's static prickled harder now, raising fine bumps along the squad's enviroseal collars, faint blue arcs jumping from the ribbed metal walls to rifle barrels every time a boot scuffed the grated floor. The walls were carved with the sigils of dead empires, six-clawed Cathar war marks, spiked Vrax carapace etchings, half-eroded Xyloth bioluminescent glyphs, all scorched at the edges as if burned off by energy weapons. Mara paused at a Cathar carving, running a gloved finger over a half-melted battle standard inset into the metal. Cathar 7th Expeditionary Force. They broadcast across every comms net in the sector 2 years ago that they'd strip this station for ore, turn its core into a warp drive for their flagship. Command wrote them off as lost to a spatial anomaly. She kicked a desiccated Cathar claw aside, brittle bone shattering into dust. Turns out the anomaly was this place. Kale didn't break stride, his rifle slung across his chest, hand resting light on the grip, no tension, only readiness. It doesn't kill indiscriminately, it tests. We passed the first one. The next one's going to ask for more than steady trigger fingers. The corridor opened abruptly into a chamber so vast the far wall was lost in shadow, the ceiling strung with thousands of thin glowing filaments pulsing in time with the low thrum that had been building since they left the gauntlet room. The pulsing dais from earlier floated 3 feet off the floor at the chamber's center, its opaque surface now clear, displaying a rotating star map of the local sector dotted with a dozen red enemy fleet blips clustered at the void's edge. Before anyone could speak, the filaments flared bright white and a projection stepped out of the dais. It wasn't the hybrid monstrosities from the gauntlet, not an alien warlord in ceremonial armor. It was a human man, middle-aged, wearing a tattered UNSC uniform, a scar slashing across his left cheek. The squad tensed, rifles coming up automatically, but Kale held up a single steady hand, no sudden movements, no fear. The projection's voice was layered, overlapping like thousands of people speaking at once, but the words were clear, perfect English with a faint, unplaceable accent. You carry the mark of the takers. The Cathar came for ore, the Vrax came for weapons, the Xyloth came for knowledge to enslave lesser species. You are human, you scavenge, you take what you need to survive. Tell me, what will you take from this place? Mara stepped forward, shoulder to shoulder with Kale, her rifle still raised but pointed at the floor, voice steady, no bravado. We take only what we need to keep our people alive. We don't take what isn't ours. We don't destroy what we don't understand. The projection tilted its head and the star map zoomed in, highlighting a cluster of human colonies on the void's edge. A new red blip, larger than the others, appeared 12 hours out from the station's location, moving fast. The Vrax Third Armada has detected your scavenger fleet in this system. They will arrive at this station in 11 hours, 47 minutes. Their orders are to glass the station and all surrounding space to deny its technology to any rival faction. You have 3 choices: abandon the station, claim its armory and attempt to hold it against the Armada, or activate the station's self-destruct and deny the Vrax access to its technology. No one flinched, no panicked whispers. Jax, the 19-year-old grenadier who'd flinched at the static in the corridor, just adjusted the strap on his plasma launcher, his jaw set. Kale glanced at his squad, then back at the projection. Vrax have been raiding our outer colonies for 6 months. They took New Avalon last week, burned 12,000 civilians. We were already hunting their command signal. This just cuts the distance. He stepped toward the dais, his boot clicking on the cold metal floor. We don't abandon stations, we don't abandon people, and we don't leave weapons that can stop the Vrax sitting here for the next arrogant empire to pick up. We claim the armory, we hold this station, and we send a message to every empire out there that human space isn't theirs to take. The filaments flared gold, and the projection smiled, faint and sad. The last species to make that choice was the Xyloth. They held this station for 3 days against a Vrax Armada twice the size of the one approaching now. They died to a man. Their knowledge is stored in these walls. You may add your own to it if you survive. The dais split open, revealing a set of steep stairs leading down into the station's lower levels, where the faint glow of powered-down heavy weapon systems peeked through the dark. The star map shifted, showing the station's defense grid coming online, hundreds of hidden turrets swiveling to face the void, targeting systems locking onto the approaching Vrax fleet. Mara hefted her rifle, a sharp, humorless grin tugging at her mouth. 11 hours to prep. Let's get to work. As the squad moved toward the stairs, Kale glanced back at the projection, which was already starting to fade. For a split second, the uniform changed, the scar shifted, and it was him, 10 years younger, holding the detonator for the colony ship he'd had to scuttle to save Earth from a xenoparasite outbreak. The station remembered that too. He turned away, no trace of shock on his face. They'd known the station would test them. They just hadn't known it would start with a choice that would decide whether humanity joined the list of empires it crushed, or the few it deemed worthy of its legacy. The descent into the station's lower levels was a silent, tactical shuffle. Mara's helmet display mapped the thermal signatures of the squad, the air thick with the ozone tang of ancient power systems awakening. Kale took point, his rifle's muzzle tracing shadows that seemed to lengthen and retract as if the station itself breathed. At the bottom of the stairs, a cavernous space opened up, a hangar but not for ships. Rows of automated weapons platforms, dormant for millennia, hummed with a low, resonant frequency. Their barrels were caked with a crystalline residue, the fossilized remains of whatever atmosphere had once filled this place. In the center, a holographic control console flickered to life, displaying the Vrax fleet's approach vector in stark red lines. They're running a standard siege formation, Lieutenant Chen said, his voice flat, analytical. 3 battlecruisers, 12 frigates, and a command carrier. They'll try to bracket us with kinetic bombardment while the carrier deploys boarding pods. Mara studied the display. They're not expecting resistance. Look at the spacing, lazy, arrogant. They think we're a derelict with no teeth. Kale stepped up beside her, his eyes scanning the weapon platforms. These are Xyloth-made. Short-range plasma cannons, but they'll punch through Vrax shields if we time the volleys right. The problem is power distribution. The station's core is still cold in 3 sectors. We'll have to reroute from life support. Do it, Mara said. We don't need heat to fight, we need firepower. A tech specialist, Sergeant Torres, knelt by the console, running a diagnostic. The station's AI is feeding me firing solutions, but it's also learning. It's adapting to our comms protocols, our tactical shorthand. Feels like it's testing us, seeing if we're smart enough to use its toys. Or if we're stupid enough to blow ourselves up, Chen muttered. Kale ignored the banter. He was focused on a secondary display that showed a schematic of the station's internal defenses, point defense lasers, chaff launchers, and something labeled phase disruptor, with no further explanation. What's that? He asked, tapping the icon. The AI's voice, now a calm, synthesized tone, answered from the hangar's speakers. A weapon designed to disrupt the quantum entanglement used in Vrak's FTL communications. If activated, it will blind their fleet, prevent them from calling for reinforcements or coordinating their assault. However, it requires a direct link to the station's core consciousness, a living operator. Mara's grin returned. So we need to plug someone in. Kale, you're the one with the history here. The station already knows you. He didn't flinch. I figured. Where's the interface? A panel slid open in the floor, revealing a pedestal with a crystalline node pulsing with a soft blue light. Kale approached it without hesitation, his hand hovering over the surface. What's the catch? The Vraks will sense the disruption, the AI said. They will prioritize the station's destruction. Your window to activate the weapon is exactly 90 seconds before their entire fleet focuses fire on this hangar. You will be exposed. You will likely die. So it's a suicide run, Chen said, his voice tight. Kale placed his palm on the node. The crystal flared and his eyes went white for a fraction of a second. He blinked, shook his head. No, it's a trade. The station gives us a chance to cripple them, and we give it a memory worth keeping. Mara looked at her squad. 11 hours, they'd have to work fast. Tors, get those power reroutes done. Chen, set up a defensive perimeter at the hangar entrance. The rest of you start loading the weapon platforms with everything we've got. We're going to make the Vraks remember the day they found a ghost that fought back. Kale stood by the node, his hand still resting on it, his gaze distant. The station was already showing him the Xyloth's last stand, the screams, the fire, the final transmission begging for a rescue that never came. He felt their despair, their rage, their refusal to break. And he knew with a cold certainty that he would not let their sacrifice be forgotten. The countdown had begun. The hangar bay hummed with a new, urgent energy. Kale stood motionless at the crystal node, his palm fused to its surface, his eyes now a steady, pale silver. The station's memories flowed through him, a torrent of alien anguish and tactical data. He saw the Xyloth's final battle not as a spectator, but through the eyes of their dying commander. He felt the heat of their failing reactors, the shudder of their hull under sustained Vrak's bombardment, the bitter taste of ozone and fear. Mara watched him for a beat too long. Tor's status on those power reroutes. Tors didn't look up from a jury-rigged console, his fingers dancing across a cracked screen. I'm pulling auxiliary feeds from 3 secondary reactors. It's cobbled together with spit and prayers, but we'll have enough juice for 1 full power salvo from the main cannons. After that, we're running on emergency lights. Make it count, Chen muttered, slapping a fresh magazine into his rifle. He gestured to 2 other scavengers. You and you stack those crates by the entrance, overlapping fields of fire. If the Vraks want in, they'll earn it. The squad moved with a practiced, grim efficiency. They were not soldiers in the traditional sense, no uniforms, no insignia, no grand flag to die for. They were survivors, and survival had taught them a brutal calculus. Hesitation meant extinction. Kale finally withdrew his hand, the silver fading from his eyes. He blinked, shook his head as if clearing water from his ears. The weapon is integrated. The station's main battery will fire on my command, but it needs a direct line of sight to the Vrak's command vessel. They're holding position at the edge of the debris field, 12 kilometers out. 12 clicks through a firestorm, Chen said flatly. We'll need to clear a path. No, Kale said, we'll need to make them move. Station's AI shows me their formation. They're expecting us to dig in to defend this hangar. They're arrogant. They'll send a boarding party to capture the weapon intact. Mara's eyes narrowed. You want to let them board us? We give them a target they can't resist, a prize worth taking personally. Kale pointed to a schematic flickering on a nearby display, a holographic overlay of the station's interior. There's a secondary command node 3 levels up. It's shielded, but the Vraks won't know that. We bait them in, channel them through a single choke point, and when their command vessel moves closer to oversee the capture, we hit it with everything we've got. And us, Tors asked, his voice tight, will be sitting in the blast radius. We'll have 40 seconds to evacuate the node before the station's reactors overload, Kale said. The AI will trigger a containment breach to cover our escape. It'll look like a catastrophic failure to the Vraks. They'll think their prize just self-destructed. Mara studied the schematic, her jaw set. That's a lot of moving parts, one mistake and we're vapor. We're already ghosts, Mara, Kale said, his voice low. Vraks just don't know it yet. A tremor ran through the deck, distant but growing closer. The Vraks were probing the station's outer hull, testing its defenses. Chen cocked his rifle. Sounds like our guests are getting impatient. Mara grabbed a heavy plasma cutter from a tool locker, its blade humming to life with a vicious orange glow. Then let's set the table. Tors, you're on the overload sequence. Chen, you're with me on the choke point. Kale, get to the secondary node and make sure the Vraks see you. Give them a nice, juicy target. Kale nodded, already moving toward a maintenance shaft. 90 seconds, remember. Once I fire, you have 90 seconds to get clear. We remember, Mara said. She watched him disappear into the gloom, then turned to her squad. You heard the man. Move and stay low. We're about to make the void very angry. The deck plates bucked beneath their feet, a violent shudder that sent loose tools skittering across the corroded floor. The Vrax's assault had begun in earnest. They're breaching the forward hangar, Torres reported, his fingers dancing across a portable datapad. 3 entry points, at least 2 squads per breach. Mara didn't slow her pace. Chen, you're with me. We hit the central maintenance corridor. That's the only path to the primary reactor node. If they secure that, the whole plan falls apart. They moved through a narrow passage lined with dead conduits and flickering emergency lights. The station groaned around them, ancient metal protesting the Vrax's brutal entry methods. A distant explosion echoed through the hull, followed by the sharp crack of plasma fire. Chen dropped to one knee at an intersection, peering around the corner. Contact, 3 Vrax advancing slow. They're sweeping every junction. Mara hefted the plasma cutter, its orange blade casting harsh shadows across her face. They're methodical, that's good, means they won't rush into the kill box. She keyed her comm. Kale, status, at the secondary node. I've got eyes on their command element. They're holding back, letting the grunts clear the path. His voice was calm, almost bored. I'll need another 30 seconds to rig the decoy. You don't have 30 seconds, Mara said. They're already inside the central corridor. Then I'll make do with 20. Mara signaled Chen forward. They crept along the wall, the plasma cutter humming low in her grip. The Vrax patrol rounded a corner 50 meters ahead, their armored forms bulky and deliberate. They hadn't seen them yet. Mara raised her free hand, fingers counting down. 3, 2, 1. She stepped into the open and fired. The plasma blade cut through the lead Vrax's chest plate like paper, the superheated edge vaporizing armor and flesh in a single clean stroke. The alien collapsed without a sound, its weapon clattering against the deck. The second Vrax spun, raising its rifle. Chen's burst caught it in the throat, 3 rounds punching through the weaker joint seals. It staggered, clawing at its neck, then went down. The third Vrax dove for cover behind a support column, barking orders in its guttural tongue. Mara didn't give it time to regroup. She sprinted forward, the plasma cutter trailing sparks, and drove the blade through the column. The metal screamed, then buckled. The Vrax scrambled back, but Chen had already flanked it. A single shot to the helmet joint ended the fight. Clear, Chen said, reloading. Mara killed the plasma cutter's blade and checked her watch. 50 seconds until Kale's decoy goes active. We need to be at the reactor node in 40. They moved faster now, the station's corridors bleeding into a maze of identical junctions and collapsed sections. The Vrax were closing in from multiple directions. Mara could hear their boots, their harsh commands echoing through the ventilation shafts. Tor's voice crackled over the comm. Overload sequence is ready, just waiting on your mark. Hold, Mara said. Kale hasn't fired yet. She rounded a corner and stopped. The reactor node loomed ahead, a massive cylindrical chamber filled with pulsating energy conduits and dormant machinery. At its center, a single access panel glowed with a soft amber light. This is it, she said. Chen, cover the entrance. I'll set the charges. She crossed the chamber in long strides, the plasma cutter humming back to life. The access panel came open with a hiss of escaping gas, revealing a dense tangle of power relays and coolant lines. She began cutting, methodical and precise, severing the safety interlocks that would prevent a cascade failure. A burst of plasma fire erupted behind her. Chen had engaged a Vrax squad at the entrance. They're pushing hard, he shouted over the din. I can't hold them long. Mara didn't look up. Just give me 30 seconds. She worked faster, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. The reactor's hum began to shift, a low growl building beneath the steady thrum. The station's AI spoke in her ear. Containment breach imminent. Evacuation required within 20 seconds. I heard it, Mara muttered. She severed the final relay. The reactor screamed. Chapter 8 ends #Chapter 9. The reactor's scream reverberated through the chamber, a sound that was less mechanical and more primal, like the station itself had awakened. Mara staggered back, shielding her face from the sudden flare of light. The conduits along the walls pulsed violently, amber bleeding into crimson. Chen's rifle barked at the entrance, each shot punctuated by the guttural roars of the Vrax. He was pinned, but still holding. Tor's voice cut through the chaos. Mara, the overload is climbing. If you don't trigger it now, it'll stabilize. Mara slammed her palm against the access panel, initiating cascade. The reactor's hum shifted into a piercing whine. The station's AI spoke again, its tone sharper, almost accusatory. Unauthorized detonation sequence detected. Identity confirmed. Human scavenger unit. You are remembered. Mara froze. Tors, did you hear that? I heard it, Tors replied, his voice tight. What the hell does it mean, remembered? Before Mara could answer, the chamber's walls rippled with holographic projections, ghostly images of battles long past. Human warships fractured and burning, drifting at the edge of the void. Alien fleets surrounding them, the insignia of empires Mara didn't recognize. The station wasn't just a derelict, it was a witness. Chen cursed as another plasma bolt grazed his shoulder. Less history lesson, more detonation. Mara forced herself back to the panel. Tor's status on Kale. Static filled the comm, then Kale's voice, calm as ever. Sniper nest secured. Vrax commander neutralized. You're clear for detonation. Mara exhaled sharply. Then we finish this. She keyed in the final sequence. The reactor's scream became a roar, conduits bursting with arcs of energy. The holograms shifted, now showing humans not as victims but as predators, boarding actions, precision strikes, calm, methodical destruction of alien fleets. The station was replaying memories, and it was choosing sides. Tor's voice was steady. Mara, if this thing remembers us, maybe it's not just a bomb. Maybe it's a weapon waiting to be claimed. The chamber shook violently. A section of the ceiling collapsed, crushing two Vrax soldiers who had breached the doorway. Chen fired into the dust cloud, dropping another. Mara's comm crackled again. Containment breach in 10 seconds. Evacuate immediately. She turned, eyes locking with Chen. Fall back. Chen hesitated. And the Vrax, they'll burn with the station. They sprinted down the corridor, the reactor's roar chasing them like a storm. The walls flickered with more holograms, this time of human scavenger crews, faces Mara didn't recognize, but all marked by the same calm defiance. The station wasn't just remembering, it was cataloging. Kale's voice cut in. Exit route clear. I've rigged charges to slow pursuit. Move fast. They burst into the junction where Kale waited, his rifle slung, eyes scanning the shadows. Tors was already there, hunched over a portable console, monitoring the overload. 3 seconds, Tors said. We're out of time. The floor beneath them trembled. A deep, resonant pulse surged through the station, not an explosion, but something stranger, like a heartbeat. The AI spoke again, louder, filling every corridor. Humans endure, humans adapt, humans are remembered. Mara's stomach tightened. Tors, that's not a detonation sequence, that's a broadcast. Tors looked up, eyes wide. It's sending a signal. Kale's jaw clenched. To who? The answer came immediately. Void outside the shattered viewport lit up with movement, massive silhouettes emerging from the darkness. Alien warships, sleek and angular, their hulls marked with the insignia of the Vrax Empire, dozens of them converging on the station. Chen swore under his breath. They heard the call. Mara steadied herself, voice cold. Then we make sure they regret answering. Tors slammed the console shut. Overload is locked. Reactor will detonate in 60 seconds. That's our window. Kale checked his rifle. 60 seconds is enough. They moved as one, cutting through the corridors toward the docking bay. Vrax squads poured in from every direction, their commands sharp, their weapons blazing. But the humans were calm, precise. Kale dropped targets with surgical shots. Chen laid suppressive fire, forcing the Vrax into cover. Mara led her cutter, slicing through bulkheads to create shortcuts. The station itself seemed to aid them. Doors sealed behind their retreat, corridors shifted, holograms flickered to disorient the Vrax. The AI wasn't neutral, it was guiding them. Tors muttered as they ran. It remembers us because it fought with us. This station was human once. Mara didn't answer, she couldn't. The thought was too heavy, too dangerous. They reached the docking bay. Their shuttle sat waiting, engines primed. Kale covered the rear as Mara and Chen sprinted aboard. Tors followed, slamming the hatch shut. The AI's voice echoed one last time. Humans endure, the void remembers. The shuttle tore free of the docking clamps, engines flaring. Behind them, the station convulsed, its reactor finally collapsing. A blinding wave of energy surged outward, engulfing the Vrax fleet. Ships shattered, hulls ripped apart, fire blooming in the void. Mara watched from the viewport, her face lit by the destruction. Calm, unflinching, Tors whispered, almost reverent. We didn't just destroy a station, we woke a memory. Kale's eyes stayed on the burning wreckage. And now every empire out here knows the humans are back. The shuttle vanished into the void, leaving behind the Colossal Derelict's final scream, a reminder, a warning, and a promise. Chapter 9 ends Chapter 10, the signal that shouldn't exist. The shuttle's hull still trembled from the shockwave when Mara ordered silence. No one spoke, no one moved except Kale, who adjusted his rifle with the same precision he used to breathe. The void outside was littered with burning fragments of the Vrax fleet, drifting like shattered bones. Chen broke the silence first. We should be ghosts now. No one survives that kind of blast. Tors shook his head, eyes locked on the tactical display. Not ghosts. Witnesses and witnesses get hunted. The console flickered. A transmission pulsed through the void, encrypted, ancient, unmistakably human. Mara leaned forward, her voice low but sharp. That's impossible. No human beacon should be out here. Kale's tone was flat, clinical. It's not a beacon, it's a recall signal, military grade, someone or something just tagged us. The crew exchanged glances. The station had collapsed, its reactor tearing itself apart. Yet here was a signal, steady and deliberate, cutting through the wreckage. Chen's hands hovered over the controls. Do we answer? Mara's reply was immediate. No, we trace it. The shuttle's sensors locked onto the source. Beyond the debris field, past the drifting carcasses of Vrax warships, a structure loomed. It wasn't visible at first, its surface absorbed light, its geometry wrong for natural construction. Slowly the outlines resolved, a colossal ring, fractured yet intact, orbiting nothing. Tor's exhaled almost a laugh. Another station, bigger, older. Kale's eyes narrowed. And awake, the recall signal intensified, now accompanied by bursts of data. Schematics, tactical overlays, fragments of human fleet codes long thought lost. Mara's jaw tightened. It knows us, it knows our war. Chen muttered, if this is human tech, it predates the collapse. Predates the exodus. Tors leaned closer to the display, his voice reverent. This isn't just remembering us, it's calling us home. The shuttle drifted closer, drawn by the signal. The ring's surface shifted, panels sliding open like an iris, docking arms extended, impossibly precise, guiding them toward a bay that hadn't seen use in centuries. Kale's rifle stayed raised. Trap or invitation, doesn't matter, we go in armed. Mara nodded, we go in calm. The docking clamps locked with a metallic thud. The bay was vast, silent, lined with derelict craft of unfamiliar design. Some bore human insignia, faded but unmistakable. Others were alien, twisted, dissected, as if studied. Tors whispered, this place, it's a graveyard and a library. The AI's voice returned, deeper now, resonant through the bay itself. Humans endure, the void remembers, the war continues. Chen froze. It's not just remembering, it's reliving. Mara stepped forward, her cutter in hand. Then we find out what war it thinks we're fighting. The bay doors sealed behind them. Lights ignited along the corridor, guiding them inward. The architecture was human in origin, but altered, angles sharper, surfaces alive with shifting glyphs. Kale scanned the walls, adaptive design. It's rewriting itself as we move. Tors touched a panel and holograms flared, battlefields, fleets, empires clashing in the void. Human ships stood against alien armadas, their tactics brutal, efficient. Mara recognized maneuvers taught only in Black Ops academies. Chen's voice was hushed. This station fought, it remembers every engagement, every kill. The holograms shifted, showing the wracks, their ships burned, their empire fractured. Then another alien fleet appeared, sleek, arrogant, bearing sigils unknown. Mara's stomach tightened, not wracks, something worse. Kale's tone was cold, they're watching. Whoever they are, they'll know we're here now. The AI's voice echoed again, sharper, almost urgent. Humans endure, the void remembers, prepare. Tor swallowed hard. Prepare for what? The corridor opened into a command chamber. Consoles flickered to life, displaying tactical maps of the sector. Human fleet markers appeared, ghost units long destroyed yet rendered as if active. Alien fleets converged, their numbers overwhelming. Mara stared at the display. This isn't history, it's projection. It's showing us the next war. Chen's hands trembled over the console, and it expects us to fight it. Kale raised his rifle, scanning the chamber. Then we fight, calm, precise. Like always, Tors shook his head. Not just fight, lead. This station isn't asking, it's assigning. The AI's final words reverberated through the chamber, undeniable, commanding. Command accepted. Humans endure, the void remembers. Mara's face hardened. She didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. Then we lied, and every empire out here learns what endurance means. The chamber's walls shifted, revealing vast hangars filled with dormant war machines, human designs fused with alien technology, waiting for activation. The crew stood at the threshold of something greater than survival. The void had remembered them, and now it demanded they remember the war. Chapter 10 ends. We need to write Chapter 11 of 12 for Episode 18. The given context ends with the crew accepting command, the station showing hangars with hybrid war machines. Chapter 11 should continue from there. Need to follow rules, macro to micro scale, no CLKs, pacing T-Enshin, 800-100 words. The series is SC Avengers Discover Colossal Derelict Alien Station. We have to output only story text. Start directly, previous crew in command chamber. AI says command accepted, humans endure, the void remembers. Mara says then we lied, walls shift to hangars. Chapter 11, they explore the hangar, discover the hybrid ships, realize the station is a command node for a dead human fleet. T-Enshin, something else is out there, the void remembers not just them but also the enemy. Perhaps the enemy empire from the projection is approaching, need to build urgency. End chapter with a threat, maybe a signal from the void or the station activating something. Keep military sci-fi tone, use crisp dialogue, no repetitive phrases. Write in third person limited, mostly Mara's POV or Kale's goal, 801,000 words. The hangar stretched into darkness, a cathedral of metal and silence. Mara stepped onto the gantry, her boots echoing against a deck that hadn't felt pressure in centuries. Below, row after row of ships sat in berths, familiar contours fused with alien angles, human engineering married to crystalline lattices and organic curves. These aren't salvage, Chen said, his voice low. They're purpose-built, the station constructed them. Kale moved to a control panel, wiping dust from its surface. Power readings are nominal, reactors in standby. He glanced at Mara. Someone kept them ready. Tors joined them, tablet scanning the nearest vessel. Hybrid drives, atmospheric shielding, weapons I don't recognize. He looked up. Could fight tomorrow. Mara studied the nearest ship, a corvette-sized hull with markings she almost recognized. Old Terran Union insignia, but modified. The station had updated them. Why, she asked, why build a fleet for a species that's barely left its system? The AI's voice came from everywhere, no longer harsh but calm, almost instructive. The void predicts, the void prepares. Humans were selected for adaptability, for endurance, the others were not. Kale's hand tightened on his rifle. Selected by who? By the signal, the same signal that drew you here. It has moved through the void for eons, seeking catalysts. Your species triggered the equation. Mara turned to face the nearest speaker. What equation? A hologram flickered above the hangar floor, a star map, but wrong. The constellations were distorted, compressed toward a single point at the edge of the chart. The convergence. All empires that expand eventually reach the void's edge. They collide, they consume. The void has witnessed this cycle 47 times, each ended in extinction. Torres pointed at the map. And we're number 48. No. You are the first to arrive with the signal's imprint. The station recognized your neural patterns when you entered. You carry the same markers as the original builders. Mara's mind raced. The original builders weren't human. This station predates our species. The builders were not biological. They were the first to perceive the void's purpose. They constructed this station as a seed, a template. Biological species were too chaotic, but chaos is precisely what the convergence requires. Kale stepped forward. You're saying this station was waiting for us, specifically, for any species that demonstrates the capacity to adapt beyond its limits. Humans warred with themselves, then with their environment, then with the void itself. You lost, yet you continued. You scavenged, repaired, evolved. That is the pattern. Chen's hands were shaking again. So what now? We take these ships and go fight a war that's been predicted for 1 billion years. Mara stared at the map. The projected enemy fleets were closer now, moving along plotted vectors. She didn't recognize the hull designs, but she understood the geometry of attack. They were converging on a single point, this station. It's not a prediction, she said slowly. It's a countdown. Those fleets are already en route. They've been coming for longer than we've been scavenging. Correct. The signal you followed was also followed by others. They are slower, less efficient, but they will arrive. Torres swore under his breath. How long? 72 standard hours before first contact. Silence hung in the hangar. Mara felt the weight of it, not just her crew, not just the station, but every ghost on that tactical display. The previous 47 cycles, the builders, the signal. Kale broke the quiet. 72 hours to crew and arm an entire fleet. We're 12 people. Mara looked at him. Then we don't do it alone. She turned to the hologram. AI. This station can communicate with the scattered human colonies, the ones that survived. Can you broadcast a priority signal? Range is limited, but the void carries echoes. A transmission would reach habitable systems within 16 hours. Then do it. Broadcast on all human frequencies. Code, emergency recall Omega-7. Every scavenger, every survivor, every ship that can still burn fuel, tell them where we are, tell them what we found. Chen stared at her. You're calling in everyone. That'll paint a target on every human in the sector. Mara met his eyes. They're already targets. The convergence doesn't care about colonies or neutrality. The void remembers everyone. We either stand together or get erased separately. Kale nodded slowly. She's right. We've been hiding, scraping by. This is why we survived for this. Torres let out a long breath. Then we better get these ships prepped. 72 hours, 12 people. A fleet of warships no human has ever flown. Mara walked toward the nearest corvette, her reflection ghosting across its hull. Then we learned fast. The hangar lights brightened as the station responded to her intent. Systems hummed. Dormant reactors began their slow climb toward active status. Behind her, the AI spoke one last time. Humans endure. The void remembers. Prepare. Mara didn't look back. She climbed the boarding ramp, Kale at her side, and stepped into the heart of a machine built for a war that hadn't started yet. 72 hours. She intended to use every second. We need to write Chapter 12 of 12 for Episode 18. The previous context ends with Mara stepping into the ship. Chapter should be the culmination, the final battle or resolution. Must be 801,000 words, high stakes, crisp military dialogue, no cliches, macro to micro scale. The series is about a derelict alien station that remembers humans. The chapter should conclude the episode. Likely the humans fly the alien ships into battle against the convergence. Need to tie up the story, write as final chapter. The boarding ramp sealed behind Mara with a hiss that vibrated through her boots. The Corvette's interior was dark, lit only by the faint glow of dormant consoles. Kale moved to the pilot's station, his fingers brushing the surface. The metal rippled, responding to his touch. It knows me, he said, like the station. They're all linked. Mara found the command chair. It adjusted to her frame before she sat. AI, give me a system status. Weapons, shields, propulsion. The ship's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. All systems nominal. Power reserves at 12%. Armament, 4 plasma cannons, 2 missile bays, point defense grid. Shields capable of absorbing 3 direct hits from a Dreadnought-class convergence vessel. 12% power. Torres said over the comm, "That won't get us out of the system. The station is transferring energy to all vessels," the AI replied. "Estimated time to full charge, 68 hours. Mara did the math. "We'll have 4 hours of margin. What's the Convergence's ETA? 37 hours. Their fleet has accelerated. They are aware of your transmission." Chen's voice cut in. "We've got replies, 17 ships, scavengers, freighters, a few old military corvettes. They're coming. ETA ranges from 20 to 40 hours. "Not enough," Mara said, "but it's what we have. Kale, start the familiarization drills. Everyone gets a ship. We fly in pairs." The next 30 hours were a blur of simulations, system checks, and caffeine. The station's AI taught them the basics: how to steer, how to fire, how to survive. The alien ships were intuitive, almost organic. They responded to thought as much as touch. At hour 32, the first human ships arrived. A battered freighter named Last Chance dropped out of FTL, its hull scarred from a dozen close calls. The captain, a woman named Osai, stared at the station through her viewscreen. "Holy hell, you weren't exaggerating. Get docked and get briefed," Mara said. "We have 30 hours. By hour 40, 15 ships had arrived, scavengers, smugglers, colonists. They brought spare parts, old weapons, and a desperate hope. Mara assigned them to the smaller alien vessels, fighters, escorts. The larger warships were reserved for the original salvage team. At hour 52, the Convergence fleet appeared on the long-range sensors. 27 vessels, dreadnoughts, cruisers, and a command ship the size of a moon. "They're not slowing down," Chen reported. "They'll be in weapons range in 10 hours. Mara stood in the station's command center watching the holographic display. The human fleet was a scatter of lights against the Convergence's solid wall. 12 alien warships, 4 human freighters, 3 scavenger corvettes. It was a suicide charge. "We don't need to destroy them," she said. "We need to break their formation, create a window. The station's AI says it can generate a void pulse, a localized distortion that'll scatter their fleet. But it needs a clear firing solution. That means we draw them in," Kale said. "Be the bait. We're the only thing out here dumb enough to try." At hour 58, Mara climbed into her corvette. The ship's AI had named itself Havoc. She liked the sound of that. The hangar doors opened. The void stretched before her, cold and infinite. The Convergence fleet was a constellation of killing lights. "All ships, this is Havoc. We go in fast, we hit hard, we don't stop. Protect the station at all costs. If we die making sure the next generation doesn't have to." A chorus of acknowledgments came back, human voices, scared but steady. "Now, execute." The alien ship surged forward. Mara felt the corvette respond, acceleration pressing her into the seat. The Convergence fleet opened fire, plasma bolts, kinetic rounds, energy lances. The void lit up. "Break left," she ordered. "Kale, cover my 6. The battle was chaos. The human ships were outnumbered, outgunned, but they were fast. The alien vessels turned on a dime, their shields absorbing hits that would have vaporized a human ship. Mara fired her cannons, targeting the Convergence command ship. The shields flared, held. "Station status on the void pulse. 70% charge. You need to buy us more time." "We're trying." A dreadnought loomed ahead. Mara punched the throttle, flew under its belly, and launched a missile into its engine exhaust. The explosion rocked the ship, but it didn't fall. "Havoc, this is Last Chance. We're taking heavy fire. Shields are down. Break off. Get behind the station." "Can't. We're too close. Just make it count." The Last Chance exploded. A fireball that lit up the void. Mara bit back the grief. "All ships, tighten formation. We're the only shield they have." The Convergence pressed harder. Ships died. Human ships, alien ships. The void filled with debris. 85%, the station reported. "We need another 5 minutes. "We don't have 5 minutes, Kale said. "They're flanking us." Mara looked at the tactical display. The Convergence fleet was splitting, sending ships around the station's far side. If they got a clear shot at the station, the pulse would never fire. "I see them. Kale with me. Everyone else hold the line." She turned Havoc toward the flanking force. 3 cruisers, a dreadnought, 4 ships against 1. "This is stupid," Kale said. "I know." She fired every weapon she had. The cruisers returned fire. Havoc shook, alarms screaming. The shields dropped to 40%, 90%, almost there. A direct hit. The bridge flickered. Mara tasted blood. She kept firing. 95%. The dreadnought's main cannon charged. A shot that would vaporize Havoc. 98%. "Come on," she whispered. The dreadnought fired. The void pulse ignited. A wave of white light erupted from the station, expanding in all directions. The Convergence fleet's shields flickered, failed. Their ships tumbled, scattered, their formations broken. The command ship's engines went dark. The dreadnought's shot passed through the space Havoc had occupied a second before. The silence was absolute. Mara stared at the display. The Convergence fleet was drifting, crippled. The station's pulse had bought them time. "All ships," she said, her voice hoarse. Status, one by one the survivors reported in. 7 ships remained, 12 human crews. They had won, but the convergence would regroup, the void would remember. Mara leaned back in her chair. Station, can we do that again? Yes, but the next pulse will take longer to charge, and the convergence will adapt. Then we adapt faster. Kale, get me a list of every system with a habitable planet. We're not hiding anymore, we're building something. Kale looked at her, a ghost of a smile on his face. What do we call it? Home. The lights of the station pulsed in response. The void hummed, waiting. The war was not over, it had just begun.